Hello and welcome to the David Mammano Show. You guessed it. I am David Mammano. So happy to be here today because I have a kindred spirit brother sitting next to me. I'm going to read your official bio just to make it, people know the value proposition of this podcast.
And can immediately hit the delete button.
I don't want to listen to this.
I do not need to waste my time listening to this guy.
I can't say that with too many guests, but because, you're mixing comedy and business like I do,
yeah,
I think it's going to be fun. So
well, we'll see. But the audience will decide that.
So here's your quote unquote official bio. Official that was written this morning by ChatGPT. Mm-hmm. So today's guest is a man who has figured out what every company secretly needs: more laughter and fewer soul-crushing meetings. Steve Cody, this is Steve Cody, everybody. Steve Cody is the co-founder and CEO of Peppercomm, a communications firm famous for mixing business strategy with stand-up comedy, mostly because Steve refuses to do anything in life without a punchline. He's an entrepreneur, a comedian, a keynote speaker, and I just found out, too, he is an avid climber, rock climber, ice, alpine. We're going to talk more about that. And he's probably the only CEO who trains executives to think quickly on their feet by putting them on the comedy stage before they ever step into a boardroom. His innovative, hilarious, and surprisingly effective approach has helped companies build stronger cultures, communicate more authentically, and occasionally actually even laugh at themselves. Something many corporate leaders haven't done since 1995. That's when you started the company, right? Yeah. Please welcome the man who proves that humor belongs in business, the sharp, the fearless, and always entertaining Steve Cody. Steve, welcome. Welcome
David,
to the David Mammano Show.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be with you today.
So I'm going to tell everybody, this is how I met Steve. So, obviously my podcast, we do a lot of talking about business and comedy. And I'm like, I wonder what else is out there. So I go on Apple Podcasts and I do a search, comedy, business. Yours comes up and I listen to a couple episodes and I'm like, I like this guy. So looked you up on LinkedIn, Facebook, whatever, and reached out to you. And you were nice enough to say, like, yeah, I'll be your friend. So I appreciate that. And we started talking. I was just on your podcast. Mm-hmm. I think we recorded it last week.
Correct.
And it'll be out in a couple of weeks, right? Mm-hmm. So excited about that. And I wanted you to be on my podcast here at the Gotham Podcast Network. So
much appreciated.
So we're in New York City, where you have an office.
Yes, indeed, and an apartment. Yes, both.
And where do you normally live? Is it?
I don't like to disclose that.
Is that right?
There have been several assassination attempts.
I was going to say paparazzi. You're saying assassination. Okay.
It's more like a coup.
Gotcha.
Yeah, coup attempts.
From your staff. Right?
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right.
Get him out.
Yes. Take him out is more like it. Go ahead.
So yeah. I love that. So just tell us how it all started. Were you the class clown growing up? Were you a funny guy?
No.
Just funny looking. I mean, tell me.
Funny looking. Yeah. No, I'm an introvert. I remain an introvert. But I had some great mentors who encouraged me to become more outgoing in meetings and improve my listening skills. And I commute in and out of Penn Station. I have an apartment here, but also live in Central Jersey. And there was a poster at Penn Station saying, learn how to perform stand-up comedy, 5 nights, $385, perform at a Manhattan comedy club. I said, I'm going to give that a shot.
I'm in.
$385, a couple of C-level comedians taught me, the basics of stand-up comedy. Friday afternoon, I did the 6 o'clock show at a stand-up place called Stand Up New York on Amsterdam Avenue. Worst anticipation and anxiety in my entire life, but I got through it. And then the MC, who was not one of those C-level comedians, tapped me on the shoulder afterwards and said, you aren't half bad. Would you like to perform next Saturday night at my show at the New York Comedy Club? And I thought, wow, Letterman, Leno, Conan, here I come. So I fell in love with it in the same way I fell in love with climbing. And for 2 years in a row, David, I kid you not, I performed 2 nights a week in front of crowds as large as 5 and as small as 1. There were more comedians than there were members in the audience. And I learned 2 things. I was not going to make it as a stand-up comedian, but I was learning so many skills that were transferable to the workplace. Silence being one. How do you deal with silence? That can be deadly in a new business meeting or a client meeting, but when you know how to use it to your advantage, it's amazing. And when you know how to deepen rapport, when you know how to actively listen, reading a room, I thought, I have to teach this or train my people on this. So the individual, the comedian who tapped me on the shoulder, Clay Clayton Fletcher. I brought him in. We did a ambush attack on my management committee at a meeting, and they, if looks could kill, I would not be here. But at the end of it, they said, this is amazing. Let's roll this out to our whole staff. So ever since 2004, 2005, we have been training all of our employees in stand-up and improvisational comedy. And we now have done it with probably 35, 40 major Fortune 500 companies who are trying to break down silos, foster collaboration, creativity, generational gaps, political gaps, et cetera. And it works like a charm, and it's a huge differentiator for us as well.
Now, when you say everybody that you train, I mean, you're like the bookkeeper. I mean, receptionist,
the whole front office, back office, up office, down office. Anyone who is being paid by Peppercomm, it's not forced. We have had a few people say, "Do I have to do this?" And I'll say, "No, you don't have to do it." Peer pressure usually prompts them to do so.
You'll be fired. I mean, you don't.
Yeah, exactly. I said it'll be factored into your next performance review if you don't do it. But for the most part, everybody not only gets through it, but when we're doing this whether it's with our employees or with clients, at the beginning of our training, everyone's a deer in the headlights, and at the end they're swarming me and saying, we have to do this again. Can we do this with another group in our company, et cetera, et cetera. So and we tie it into our charitable fundraising. So every January, our employees pick a different charity. I MC very poorly, and we have a club called the West End Comedy Club, and we pick a different charity, and 8 or 9 Peppercommers perform. We'll have 3 or 4 professional comedians, and we've raised as much as $50,000 in a single night for Young Survival Coalition, Habitat for Humanity, ASPCA, and the employees get to pick it, and they love it. And it's a great way to develop business. You invite some prospects in, and they see, wow, this is a really cool company. They're not only capable, but they're funny and they're fun to be with. And at the end of the day, you want to be and work with people whose company you enjoy. So that's kind of the magic to it all.
Right. I love it. So Peppercomm, it almost, I feel like there's like, there's a fine line between like before comedy and after comedy, right?
Yes.
So when you started Peppercomm as like what, a traditional marketing communications PR agency? Type
primarily business to business financial services. Exactly.
Financial services.
Oh, very much so. We have a lot of serious financial clients.
Right. Okay.
That's one of the interesting things. We have more requests from companies in very serious lines of business, big 4 accounting firms, major banks, et cetera, than we would from, say, a Zappos or some company that you would associate with, being, edgy and mirthful and all that sort of stuff. So,
mirthful, good SAT word.
Yeah. Well, it is an SAT
so
word.
Smart.
Yeah, I did better on English than I did on math. That's for sure.
So when you were first starting out in 95, right?
Yeah.
You were
black and white, standard operating,
kind of like an ad agency.
The only differentiator was that I named my firm in honor of my late black lab, Pepper. And I found out that there was a dog lover in every new business pitch. So that was our initial differentiator. I just did that because I couldn't think of a better name.
Right.
But it wasn't until the comedy training kicked in that all of a sudden we really started to take off, and Crane's named us the #1 workplace in all of New York City. We beat 930 other companies, including New York Life and Microsoft. And we're constantly winning workplace and culture awards because of the comedy-infused culture.
Right.
People like to see me fail. And admit my failure and say, this is what I learned from my failure. So the vulnerability that comedians learn is so intrinsic, I think, to leadership, especially nowadays in this perma crisis in which we exist.
Perma crisis. Tell me, what's a perma crisis?
It's a permanent crisis.
It's
also a woman that I married. Pam Perma crisis. We divorced. It didn't last. It was one of those Las Vegas things.
Right. Gotcha.
I heard somebody at a board meeting I was at this afternoon saying, "People, we're in a perma crisis here. Let's get used to it."
I just was watching. Speaking of wives, I was watching an SNL skit, and the guy, what's his name? He's kind of a famous comedian now. Come to me, but he was doing a fake commercial, and it was like for a pharmacy product called couple of beers, right?
Love
And he goes and he's listing all the things that it solves, right? Anxiety, depression.
Yeah.
And then he said, severe Italian wife syndrome.
Yes, indeed. It's right up there with seasonal affective disorder. Yeah, absolutely.
He goes, yeah, moderate to severe Italian wife disorder. I'm like, okay, all right.
Yeah, I can relate to that, sure.
So then you did the comedy, and then
Yeah.
when that's what you lead with all the time. Like when a company does business with you,
Sure.
they can expect to have comedy,
Yeah,
humor.
it's yes. If it's appropriate, if they want that. Some companies just want to state the facts, get their product or service information out, et cetera. And obviously we do a lot of crisis counseling, and there are very few opportunities to inject comedy when something serious is going on.
Right, yeah.
But otherwise, so many of our clients and prospective clients want to reach the Gen Z audience in particular. And Gen Z grew up loving comedy and loving humor and wanting to work for a company that is humanistic, if you will, and is willing to be empathetic, vulnerable, admit fault, allow failures, allow people to fail and learn from failures. So it's a great way for companies and employees to find us. And if they like what they see and hear, hire us or become part of our group.
Yeah, I love it. How many people you got working with you?
That's not something I can disclose. 50 souls. 50 souls.
That is fantastic.
Yeah, 50 souls, yeah. And then we're part of a much larger global company that bought us about 4 years ago as well.
So now you have,
we've trained many of them as well.
Oh, good.
So there are 1,500 of those poor souls.
So you got bought out, so now you're funny and you have a big bag of money at home.
Medium-sized.
Not bad. All right.
Yeah. Yes. No, it's a beautiful.
Well earned, I'm sure. So,
well, thank you. Yes.
So when you were first starting out with the whole, levity comedy humor thing, a lot of companies were kind of like, that's cute, but
I cannot tell you how many times I would call someone I knew, at a company, and he would stop me like 5 minutes into my presentation and say, Steve, not only do we not laugh at my company, we don't even smile. If I were to suggest stand-up comedy to my CEO, I'd be fired on the spot.
Right.
I said, okay. So I ended the conversation and I thought, thank God I'm not in his shoes.
Right.
I could not exist in that kind of culture. But
so
it's not right for every organization.
But I mean, when you go into companies, you actually teach them to do what you did, to do improv and comedy within their company?
Yeah, absolutely. Everything is tailored to meet whatever their challenges are. And like I said earlier, sometimes they are geographical changes, differences, they're generational differences. There are people who simply don't want to collaborate and cooperate with each other. It could be red state, blue state. We have a major manufacturing company that has everything from red state, blue state to high school dropouts and PhDs. So how do you get those people to cooperate?
Right.
So you break down silos first with improv, with various improv exercises, and then teach them how to do stand-up comedy. And they learn all sorts of new things about one another. And lo and behold, based upon the before and after research that we do, high degree of productivity improvement, collaboration, greater creativity. We have a major automotive company that always has us do improv training for their C-suite before their weekend-long retreat in which they plan for the next 6 months, just so they can open their minds, collaborate, do some teamwork together, and then do the real heavy lifting after that.
Yeah. Oh, that's super, super fantastic. You it must be so gratifying, because you could actually see the change that you're making in the world, right?
No question about it. And to have so many people say, you have no idea how important that training was just to change the mindset of so many people who didn't want to cooperate with one another because they looked differently, or they came from a different generation, or they were from Europe or Asia, and this person grew up in Arkansas. I'm making some of this up, but we break down those silos. It's so effective in breaking down those silos, and it's a big problem for so many organizations today.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now, when you go to a company, let's say they need a new marketing campaign. Is that something you'll do as well? You'll infuse humor into their marketing campaign?
If it's appropriate. It's all audience specific. So if the audience they're trying to reach is open to and would like to engage with a brand that is humorous, then yes, we will help put together that creative campaign for them. Sometimes that's the case. Sometimes they want to reach the baby boomers like me. And a lot of people my age are just full of aches and pains and don't laugh a whole lot. So that's when you have a more serious campaign.
But if they laugh more, maybe those aches and pains will go away.
That's the way I see it. But I'll go out with people my age, and it's nothing but, I had my hip replaced. I had my knee replaced. It's some misery. So it really depends upon the brand and who they're trying to reach, whether or not we would use comedy to infuse that campaign.
Could you give us some examples, either that you've done or that you know of, where it could have been a crisis, or it could have been just something like the company benefited so much by infusing humor and comedy into their strategies?
Yeah, well, first I'll give you my all-time favorite, which is not a Peppercomm client, but that's the Mayhem character for Allstate Insurance. I think it's an absolute brilliant way to break through and let people know about the problems they're facing, but do it in a funny way that breaks through from the competition. That's my all-time favorite. We have been agency of record, I'm pleased to say, for Mini Cooper for 12 years. And Mini loves having us not only train their employees and their senior management, but work with them on creative campaigns, because the Mini brand is unconventional to begin with. And it attracts buyers who see themselves as very different. They can personalize their car. So we have had so many different really cool, really funny campaigns for Mini over the years, because they allow us the creative license to do so.
That is awesome. How about like a Stoa company, like one of these financial companies? How do you help them to be more? I know, like the CEO is probably not going to be a comedian in the office, but how do you train them to be more light and add a little bit more levity and joy into the workplace?
A lot of it's storytelling. So we'll get a CEO ready for a CNBC interview, maybe 3 or 4 minutes to talk about quarterly earnings, and typically it's a he. He is just deadly dull as we're training him. So we will just stop and say, let's stop for a minute, David. Making that up, of course, because you're anything but deadly dull. But I would say, David, let's just stop for a minute. Tell me about what gets you upset, not business-wise, but for me, it's being a New York Jets fan, it's flying United Airlines, it's having a wife who sometimes, in the middle of the night will scream out somebody else's name. What gets you upset? So all of a sudden he will start telling me, boy, this happened, or, I don't like this, or I don't like that, loosens him up. And he starts telling me a story. And I'll say, okay, let's go back and talk about the 3 most important things you want to get across in tomorrow's CNBC interview. And all of a sudden he's telling a story. He's not a robot anymore. It is like magic. And it's miraculous in terms of how quickly we can turn someone around from being a complete stiff to a fairly engaging and enthusiastic storyteller that the viewing audience will want to say, hey, you know what? That sounds like a company I should look into.
That's awesome. And I think, what I have learned since I've started doing a little bit what you're doing to some extent, I'm going into companies and doing retreats and keynotes, and I'm not going in and doing full strategic sessions like you are. But I've heard over again, well, Dave, I'm not that funny.
Sure.
Like, you don't have to be.
You don't have to be.
Have a sense of humor.
Thank you.
Right?
It's not about telling jokes. It's not about being funny. It's just storytelling. Trust me. Trust us. If you tell the stories, and we'll help you, if you tell the stories, the audience will respond in a positive and enthusiastic way.
And be able to just, and in those stories, be able to be a little bit vulnerable and be able to laugh about yourself a little bit, right?
That self-deprecating humor, in my opinion, is the single most important leadership skill today.
I love that. Can you say that again?
Self-deprecating humor. You got me. You got me there.
Well, and I think a lot of times CEOs, bosses, leaders, they think
they have to be,
they have to play God,
right. They're tough guys.
But knowing, like, I remember I owned a magazine for 20 years, and just being me, one time I had a really bad haircut. I went to a barber, messed it up, and I knew I was going to get ribbed, right? So I just walked in and I was like, I just hit it in the head. I'm like, all right, let's get this out of the way. I'm suing the barber.
Exactly.
Trying to fight the lawnmower, whatever you want to call it. And so then they knew that they could make fun of me too.
Right. That's being in the room. That's acknowledging the elephant in the room.
Right.
Everyone knows that you had a bad haircut, but if you diffuse that with some self-deprecating humor, everybody will move on.
Right.
And that's the beauty of the vulnerability
Yeah.
of stand-up comedy.
Yeah.
It really is. It's the beauty of
You
it.
know of examples when by accident it's been taken too far and you got to do a little work afterwards?
We've had a few where we say, this is not Saturday night at Caroline's.
Right.
And so, you really don't want to go with X-rated material here. So we always say, when in doubt, leave it out. But we have had some instances where I was with a very, very powerful trade group, and we were playing the yes and exercise, which is the basic improv exercise.
Yep.
So we started out with I always start out with saying, I went to school at Northeastern University in Boston, and I spent an entire summer at Fenway Park, best summer of my life, worst summer of the Red Sox throughout the 1970s. But so what I would like you to do is say yes and pick out one word from what I just used and create the next sentence. And someone went with yes and, I lost my virginity in Boston. And then someone else said, well, yes and you think that was something. And then suddenly it became oral sex, and then got into deviant sex. And these were like very powerful individuals.
Right.
So I just kind of called time out, and I said, let's do a reset here, okay?
There's
let's
a fine line, right?
Yeah, I don't know if this is being recorded or not, but some of you may lose your jobs if this ever sees the light of day.
Good move, yeah.
And nowadays, everything sees the light of day. So,
God. Yeah,
that one quickly got out of hand.
But you were smart enough to say, hey.
Well, I knew somebody was going to there was going to be hell to pay.
You guys go to the comedy club after hours for that one. This was good, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. No, it's... and I think that as leaders, sometimes we do make mistakes. You and I, we're gregarious, fun guys, but not everybody knows how to deal with us, right?
That's exactly right.
I remember when I was running my magazine, this guy came in, and I was kind of a new CEO. I was like 30 years old, right? And so we're still like, especially as guys, we're still maturing. And he walks in with a huge cold sore, like massive cold sore. And I still had some college humor in me, and I was like, "Will you look at that thing? That's like Pluto, And I'm like, we got to name that, and we named it Luigi. And everybody in the office is calling it Luigi, and we're laughing, and he's laughing. He comes in the next morning. He's like, "I want you to know, I was mortified, and it's a form of herpes, and it's just I'm very embarrassed, and I would appreciate it if you didn't do that anymore." I'm like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry."
Of course.
He knew that thank God he knew that I didn't mean to be cruel.
Yeah, put down humor, unintentional. Unintentional put down humor can devastate another individual. It really can.
Yeah.
So you have to be mindful. Of especially if you're going to say something like that, and I've certainly done it, and I've done it with some unfortunate reply to all emails that were just devastating, unintentionally to an individual. In case in point, somebody emailed me and said John Smith just resigned, and I hit a reply to all, and I said we're better off without him. And John Smith was still very much with us and on the email
not deactivated yet, John Smith.
And one of my execs said you better come over here right away and do a town hall meeting and apologize, and I did. And so I've learned my lesson over the years.
That is kind of funny, but
not at the time, but it was a great learning lesson.
How do I do that? Recall?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That is so funny. When I'm telling leaders that they don't need to be a comedian, but they like you say need to be storytellers, just having a sense of humor, be a little bit lighter. Because it creates engagement, it creates more comfort, creates a lighter mood, which ultimately creates more productivity, compassion. You could go on and on, right? But I'm like, there is a fine line. Like we don't, they probably don't want to hear about that story when you were in college, shirtless on the bar doing your funnel. Like we have to maintain your respect level as well.
Absolutely. There's business appropriate comedy, and then there's, the midnight show at Caroline's appropriate comedy, and never the twain should meet.
Yeah.
You just don't want that to happen.
Yeah. It's funny you talk about storytelling, which is like if someone mentioned storytelling 20 years ago, they'd be like, what are you in kindergarten? But now it's like we know that it's so effective, right? And so while I'm here in New York, I'm staying with a college buddy of mine. And, he's a tech guy, right? So he works at, I won't name the bank, but, one of these big banks that we all know. Yeah. And he's one of the high level tech managers, and so he's not known. He's a very friendly, sociable guy to me, but he's not known as being an extrovert and like the guy in the office that's talking to everybody. He had a review with his manager, and she said to him, the only thing I want to say about you is that you're not a very good storyteller. And he was like, what? He's like, I'm not a storyteller. I program software for your company and I lead the team.
Yeah.
And she was like, you need to learn how to be a better storyteller. I was like, wow, telling like software guys.
Yeah. Well, that interestingly enough, when we do train, both our own people and our client organization employees, extroverts often fail. Mm-hmm. And the ones we're told are introverts excel because they're given an opportunity to storytell. We give them a few prompts, and our IT guy is laugh out loud funny. But until we got him up on stage, he was doing all the filming and everything. Whenever we would do our charity fundraisers, we finally got him up on stage. He killed, absolutely killed, and he's now like the life of the party in the office.
You brought it out, right?
We brought it out unknowingly, and it happens so many times when we do with client organizations as well. They'll say, keep an eye on this one, keep an eye on that one, because they really need help. They're so introverted. And then we get them up on stage after we prompt them and prepare them, and they just kill. And then the one we told is just laugh out loud funny, never shuts up and is boring as hell. So it's interesting the dichotomy, really, in personalities.
No, well, and the fact that you brought that out in him, you probably gave him so much confidence in other areas of his life too. Right?
There's no question. That's right. The residual, the side effects, if you want to call it, you're more comfortable in settings, whether they're personal settings, cocktail receptions, whatever. You're no longer afraid to engage in conversation. You can actively listen. Active listening, as you know, is part and parcel of both stand-up and improv. Right. And if you can just pick up on a cue, if 2 people or 3 people are having a conversation and the word Boston comes up. Boston, eh? I was just up at Fenway Park. Are you guys into sports at all? No? Well, what do you think about the big winter storm you can actively listen.
You hate the Patriots too?
Exactly. We all hate the Patriots. Who doesn't hate the Patriots? Even though they're the best team in the NFL right now.
Unbelievable again, right? As a Bills fan, it hurts.
Well, as a Jets fan, I mean, I can't tell you how badly it hurts.
Sorry,
It doesn't get. The only thing worse is being a Giants fan, which I'm not.
Well, he kicked the ground really well, but
no question. Stellar performance on Monday night.
You just reminded me of the first time I did stand-up comedy because, with your IT guy trying it and gaining confidence in other areas of his life besides comedy. And, so I was in college at University of Buffalo, and there was a comedy contest going around the country, and they were trying to find the funniest college student in America. And so they were at UB, and my friend's like, oh, you should do it, because I'm the joke teller. And I'm like, oh my God, no way, I can't get on stage. Well, they convinced me to do it. And I remember right beforehand, I was like convulsing, right? Probably like you said, like turning red hives, like, oh my God, what am I doing? What have I done? Well, I get on stage, and there's about 400 people there, a bunch of college, a lot of friends of mine, thank God. And I didn't win the contest, but I did okay. But what I did win was a titanium spine, right? Because I'm like, if I could do that.
Absolutely.
It just made me, especially at that age still, there's a lot of peer pressure. And it gave me confidence to stand up for myself and speak more confidently in situations. And I think that's a good example of like, even the IT guy can learn things from doing stand-up comedy. Right?
Yes, and I tell our people, once you've performed stand-up, doing a new business presentation is a walk in the park. Right. It really is a walk in the park. You don't have to make people laugh. You don't have to make people laugh. You just have to memorize whatever you have to say in the new business pitch, but have the freedom to improv because you now have those skills. So it's such a valuable skill to learn in business. It really is.
Do you have an example of using comedy humor in crisis management?
I've seen some great examples. For example, after our current president was in his first term and was recommending the use of Clorox to combat
that didn't work?
COVID, Clorox put out a really funny statement to the effect that since our founding in 1884, Clorox has been used for one thing and one thing only: bleaching laundry. Right. Full stop.
Right.
So I've seen some really funny uses of comedy to mitigate, if not make crises completely disappear, but it has to be so finely tuned and nuanced. There's an
edge to it, right?
There's a real,
fine line to it,
very fine line to it that you're not being offensive. And further escalating a crisis that you want to go away.
Right. Yeah. You don't want to sound defensive, right? You want to be able to laugh at yourself without, like, while still honoring the situation. Right?
Exactly right. And also make sure that it resonates with the audience. Again, will this resonate with a Gen Z audience, a Gen X, a Boomer audience? So it's not just the crisis itself, but how will my audience? Will I lose audience members by trying to be unintentionally or intentionally funny in the midst of this crisis?
Yeah. I just remembered, I think I heard it on your podcast when I was listening to it, Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Yeah,
that's correct. In England, right? What's that story?
Right. The story was they ran out of chicken.
That's bad for Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Yeah. It's kind of like McDonald's running out of hamburgers. You just don't want that to happen. So they came out with a campaign basically saying, we know we FCK'd up. So they juxtaposed the KFC with FCK, leaving out the U. But everyone got it, and the crisis went away. And their customers remained loyal to them, which is what you want. There are ways in which you can not only maintain the customer base but grow the customer base if you manage the crisis responsibly.
Yeah,
and they did a beautiful job.
If you make a mistake, admit it,
and that's the problem with most politicians. Yeah. So I think going back to Lincoln, who had a great sense of humor, Kennedy had a great sense of humor. Reagan had a great sense of humor. Obama, I think, arguably the best sense of humor. Right. And they mitigated so many really hostile reporter questions by using humor in the right way at the right time. Yeah. And I think politicians today have just completely lost their way in terms of being empathetic, vulnerable, using self-deprecating humor. I'm hard-pressed to name one.
Right, yeah. I think our current president, sometimes he says things and you just have to laugh even though he's not meaning to be funny.
Right. Exactly right. And he's the king of put down humor, and it's nonstop put down humor. And it's offensive.
Kind of adult bullying, right? But Abraham Lincoln, I'm a big fan of his. I've read tons of books. And,
ditto.
And I just remember his saying where someone accused him in a debate of being two-faced, and he said, if I had two faces, you think I'd be using this one? Right?
Lincoln was so sharp, such a wit. He really was. And arguably, present days notwithstanding, the worst crisis in American history.
Right. Yeah.
And he maintained his humor, and he suffered from depression.
Oh, big time.
Yeah. So to maintain a sense of humor while you're fighting a civil war and battling depression, that ain't easy.
And losing a child in the White House, too.
That's correct.
That's
correct.
Yeah, but and then Reagan, it was one of the debates, was it with Mondale, where Mondale accused of being too old? And then he replied that I'm not going to use your youth against you.
Right. And when he was debating Carter, his famous line was, "There you go again."
Right, yeah.
Whatever Carter was saying, Carter was talking about the economy or whatever, and Reagan just kept saying, "There you go again." And that became like the signature soundbite. Right. And the same thing with Mondale. Yeah, you're not going to. I'm not going to let you use my age, whatever. Yeah, he used his age as a positive, as opposed to being 70 years old.
I'm not going to take it. In fact, your youth and inexperience. I'm not going to use it against you. Right?
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly. And even Mondale laughed.
Right. He did. He did. He's like, oh, it got me, right? So,
and landslide followed.
I don't think it was the worst defeat ever.
It was one of the worst defeats ever. I think Dukakis is up there. And,
that's true. That's true. Yeah. I love it. So I love what you're doing. I guess if somebody is a CEO and listening, to this right now, and they just want to walk away with, without giving away your secret sauce here, what are some things that they could say? All right, great podcast. Tomorrow, when I walk in the office, I'm going to start doing some things differently to infuse some more comedy and humor and joy into the workplace. What would you suggest?
Well, I think it's just bringing humanity into the office and just sharing something that happened to you that may show some vulnerability on your part. Like I was telling you, over the weekend, I had an unfortunate run-in with a
Oh yeah, you know what? I don't even see that much.
My black eye. Yeah. So just like you with the facial disfigurement or the haircut, I started just poking fun at myself and making up stories. Like, I was competing for the Ultimate Fighting Championship in New Jersey State.
I took on Jake Paul.
And I took on the wrong Italian American in my backyard. Right. This is what I paid the price.
In Jersey, that can happen, right?
Right. My 3-year-old grandson's taking up boxing, and guess who his first victim was? Knocked me out in the first round.
Yeah.
So just calling attention to your own foibles and your own faults. I think no one expects any person to be a Superman or a superwoman. Yeah. So be comfortable. Let people know you're comfortable in your own skin. You know, the authenticity of just being, you know, look, I didn't sleep at all last night. I don't know why, but I may be a little bit irritable today, guys. So can you cut me a little slack? Just that. You don't have to be funny, but if you can be authentic and honest in terms of what you're going through, I think you'll have a lot more support and reciprocity. You know, to help you through if you're going through a challenging time, or if the company's going through a challenging time. If you let them know, look, I'm losing sleep because we're not doing well as a business. I want you to know this is impacting me, but I'm doing everything I can to pull us out of this. And I won't stop until we're out of this. And that happened during COVID for us, when we lost like 25% of our business in 1 week. So I think it's less about, you know, being funny and more about being authentic.
That's kind of step one, being authentic and vulnerable.
That's step one, and then you can escalate it a little bit and start infusing some comedy or some jokes. If it's not expected, if you've never been that way before, that can be a bridge too far. If you've been a little bit, you know, with the smiling, it's baby steps first, because if it comes out of left field, they'll think it's fake. And that will be counterproductive for you as a leader. Exactly. Then, so start with authenticity. And then if you feel comfortable with it and the response is positive, then you can escalate it a little bit.
No, I love that so much. Steve, before we go, the climbing. So when did you start climbing?
When I visited my son, parents' weekend, freshman year at the University of Vermont, he said, Dad, I joined the rock climbing club. Would you like to try it? I said, sure. And it was just like comedy. I just fell in love with it. And
now, how old were you when you first did, if you don't mind me asking?
I was 48, 49, something like that. And from that point on, we started climbing together as a team. And we've climbed Kilimanjaro. We've climbed the Matterhorn. We've climbed in the Andes. We've climbed in Scotland. We've climbed all over the world together. And it's a terrific bonding experience. It gave me one of my first stand-up comedy routines. I said, my son and I just spent 2 weeks in Tanzania. We spent 10 days sharing a tent, climbing up Kilimanjaro. You know, you climb high, you sleep low, you climb, so you acclimatize. And then we did 3 days in a photo safari. We were with each other the entire time. Sights, smells, sounds. We've been back now for a month and we haven't spoken one word to each other. And that was the God's honest truth.
Right, you had enough of each other for a while.
Yeah, we'd had it. That was it. Went through hell together.
Right,
But that was it.
Any elevation, you just didn't want to be around each other anymore.
No, we will never share a tent again.
No. That is awesome. Well, Steve, I love that our circles overlap so much. I'm so glad I met you, and thanks for doing what you're doing.
My pleasure. I love it.
And if people want to learn more about you and your company, where do they go?
Peppercomm, Pepper, just like salt and pepper, COM, as in Michael.com.
Cool.
Peppercomm.com.
I love it. I was on your site this morning, and it's super fantastic.
Oh, thank you, David.
A lot of good stuff there. So,
thank you very much.
So, Steve, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Glad you were born.
Glad you were born too.
Thank your parents. I appreciate it.
Ditto. Back to your parents.
And thank you everybody for watching and or listening. Appreciate you. I know there's gazillions of podcasts out there, so I very much appreciate you taking time, sharing some heartbeats with us today. Hope you learned a lot from my buddy Steve here. If you want to learn more, go to his website. I'll be happy to make a personal introduction. David at davidmammano.com. Send me an email and I'll make a personal introduction. You can learn more about Steve and Peppercomm. Thank you so much. Have a great day and make sure to stay awesome.